Hey everyone, my name is Joe Randazzo, Product Manager for Authorization, here to talk about granular permissions for job tokens. I'm super excited to discuss this, and to take a step back first is really want to discuss the problem that we're solving for. First is really that users running pipelines can be overprivileged at times. If it's a developer, maintainer, or owner running in that pipeline, they can access a wide range of resources on a given project. Now we want to help try to control and reduce the access in CI/CD workflows by one, scoping down overprivileged users, or even if bots or automation tasks are running in the pipelines, scoping them down. There's also configuration setup that we've seen with our customers with cross-project access for production deployments or downstream projects, trying to scope that down. Or you might have a shared repository or project that has images or packages, and you want to scope down the retrieving or publishing of those across projects. Lastly, I'll get into at the end of the call is how we can figure out how to reduce the usage of PATs or long-lived tokens and pipelines. So as a refresher in our security model, job token access is based on the permission of the user membership and role. And now taking a step further, granular permissions will be the intersection. So we'll allow you to build off the allow list by selecting groups of projects, which can access a specific project, and then select between two different modes, default or fine-grained permissions. Default meaning this is how everything operates today. Fine-grained permissions is reducing the scope with read, write, or none on the giving resources. Now going into the user experience, I'll go ahead and select the project, in this case, project report. I selected fine-grained permissions, and then I'm going to say containers can only be read, and then releases can either be read or created. So I'm saying the project report can only read containers, or the releases can only read or create them from there. If there's not enough permissions in the job log, it'll tell you that. So there'll be insufficient permission error that reports. So that'll help you with troubleshooting in case there are restrictions made. And then as you're setting up your curl commands to figure out if an endpoint's reachable, we have this auto-generated documentation that outlines the permissions, permission names, and the path so you can troubleshoot if you're not reaching access. Now, that's just a quick demo. As we progress into beta and GA, we really want to understand, is this enough to adopt granular permissions? So our hypothesis is that new projects won't have trouble, but existing projects that really rely on production workflows might not have the right visibility in the resources being called or how much they want to scope down access. So we'd like to validate if this is true, and then if it is, second, what workflow is desirable to streamline that adoption. So we have two options laid out in our mockup. So we have option one, we'll call them permission suggestions. So as you're looking into that allow list of the groups and projects, there'll be a permission suggestion section there. You'll see a option where if you were to fill this out, you'll see the history, and we'll look into previous resource access calls and then provide suggestions based on those last used permissions. So in this case, once you apply those, it'll actually autofill those permissions in there, simplifying the creation process so you don't have to think through all the resources that are calling this project. Option two is leaning on the authentication log with permissions. So this is already out today, but you just add a new column of permissions. So as you're filling the format, you just go through the log, see what resources are being called, and you fill it out that way. So this is definitely a lightweight approach. There are some open questions we have remaining to validate. And number one being, how might you migrate existing projects to use this model? What might cause friction or unknowns? Number two, while we've talked a lot about cross-project access, but what about restricting access of the job token on itself? So we want to understand that a bit more. Number three, how important is it to define permissions for an allowed group? So in the example I showed, it was defining permissions on the specific project and cross projects, but what about doing group / and then only restricting all the projects under that to specific resource calls? And then lastly, which I'll get into in a sec, is what resources do you access with PATs or group project access tokens and pipelines? And then digging into this a bit more is the problem we often hear from customers is they rely on long-lived tokens because job tokens just didn't have access to those resources. So we really want to understand this why to help really drive the adoption of job tokens versus using long-lived tokens or having to manage the rotation, because job tokens by default are ephemeral and are done at the end of the job. So we'll definitely run Discover on this, do data analysis, talk to our customers, understand most access resources in the pipeline from all tokens. Another question is, should the new expansion of resources be available by default or as part of granular permissions configuration? You can test this out today. There is a top level switch that enables the experimental mode if you want to start with this now. We definitely welcome feedback. Here's the issue. Thank you for your time for listening and have a good day.